could LeBron James leave the Lakers? It doesn't feel impossible, and that in itself is kind of crazy. In the twilight years of his career, it seemed like LeBron was settling down in Los Angeles. This is a place, of course, with plenty of economic opportunities, and for a superstar of his magnitude, it makes sense for him to go out in Los Angeles. He won a ring there with Anthony Davis, and he's been a Laker for quite a decent amount of time now. And then this past season, Lakers made a move. They traded for Luka Doncic, which, yes, Luka is great in the present, but this move was also really to help them in moving forward into the future post LeBron. But immediately that sparked excitement, right? This duo of Luka Doncic and LeBron James, and what that could entail. And it felt like LeBron was going to go out kind of passing the torch to Luka as this anomaly, a true superstar. LeBron, one of the greatest of all time, and Luka having the opportunity to be an all-time great. It just made sense. They had drafted Bronny as well, but now things aren't so certain anymore. We're getting some reports that LeBron, he might want to leave LA. Per Rich Paul and ESPN, LeBron values competing for a championship. He understands the Lakers are building towards the future, but he wants to win. There is value in that. And so that could be a determining factor in LeBron James leaving the Lakers. And if he did get traded, that would be a monumental moment in NBA history. Because you've got a top 2 player in the history of the league getting traded. Remember, he opted into his player option. So there's no other scenario in which that's going to really happen beyond a trade. And we thought it was crazy when LA made that Luka trade, and absolutely was, but this is the caliber of trade that we're never going to see again in NBA history. Because you're not going to see another LeBron, and you're not going to see another moment like that. I wonder what the package could be even. Because yes, it's LeBron, but he's also getting older. Do teams kind of view him as an expiring contract, a 1-year rental? But for LeBron, if he wants to get traded, he wants to go to a title contender, obviously. He's chasing the greatest of all time mantle. And that doesn't come around to just anybody. He's got 4 rings right now, and of course, the widely regarded GOAT is Michael Jordan with 6. And for LeBron, I think he could very well desire winning at least one more on his way out, because when you're a star of this magnitude, it just makes sense. It feels like a fairy tale ending to go and win a championship in perhaps your final season. Look over in the NFL, Peyton Manning and the Denver Broncos. In 2015, that was his final year, and he won a Super Bowl that season. And it was a great way to close out a legendary career for Peyton Manning, because it's one final reminder as they go out on top just how great they were. And LeBron doing a similar thing, especially in the era of social media, in which that's going to be spread like wildfire, whether he retires, whether he wins, and then he immediately retires. That's going to spread a lot. And that's going to get a lot of people talking about him. And if you can stay kind of in that public conscience, people are going to be talking about you. People are going to remember you. And when they remember you, they're going to be more likely to consider you the greatest of all time. And very few players get the opportunity to be the best. So sometimes you just got to do what's best for your legacy. Ask Kevin Durant. So that's kind of where I think the motivation, the desire comes from LeBron. And we heard that from Rich Paul as well, saying he values a title contender. But is this going to happen? I think the answer lies in the moving pieces, because there's a lot of rotating parts to this. I want to start out here with the Lakers front office, because during this LeBron era, you've made a lot of moves that have been done to really keep him happy, keep this star in town, and hope that you can compete. Of course, trading for AD, winning a title. Russell Westbrook, that was, at the time, something that they hoped would elevate them. Moving on from draft capital for veterans who can hopefully help you win now. These moves have been done to try to compete with LeBron James. But then with that Luka trade, it felt more so that like they were taking a stand against that and not mortgaging their future just to compete one more time with LeBron, but also building towards that future with a guy like Luka. So with that, I think the front office kind of detached themselves from necessarily having to appeal to LeBron's every desire, and they took a stand for themselves. And so I don't think it's entirely unfeasible that they would trade LeBron, at least if, he outright demanded it, because that's a big business move. But if LeBron wants out of there, I don't think it's necessarily the worst possible scenario for the Lakers, because you got Luka now. You're building towards something long term. And that's a position that you weren't in just a couple years ago. Then you've got the head coach there, of course, JJ Reddick. He's good friends with LeBron. I think that's going to that could very much sway him. When you got a coach that you like playing for, it's easy to think about sticking around because this coach, they understand you. They understand how to best utilize you. And I think JJ Reddick and LeBron have that kind of working relationship. Looking at the roster itself, you of course have Luka Doncic, and in having Luka on the team, on one hand, that's very exciting to have him playing with LeBron. And I had some question marks regarding their fit together, but they seem to make it work pretty well. It might have been LeBron himself who described it as Luka being a natural quarterback and LeBron being a natural receiver. And so that move for Luka, that doesn't just help you in the future, it also helps you right now, immediately, if things go your way, barring injuries, to try to compete. But looking at the rest of this roster, there's some more question marks. Austin Reaves, of course, he's very good. He's solidified himself as at least deserving of that distinction. And from everything I know, he's got a good relationship with LeBron. Of course, you got Bronny on the team, and I think that's huge for the Lakers in trying to retain him, right? To kind of have his son as leverage, in which they drafted him ultimately to appease LeBron, right? Yes, Bronny's got some potential, especially as a defender, but in going to Los Angeles, especially, that plays to kind of a personal emotion of LeBron. But then you look at the rest of this roster beyond that big three of LeBron, Luka, and Reaves. There were some flaws, and we saw that in the playoffs. And with those flaws, it might feel as though LeBron might feel as though he can't win there. And if he truly wants to win, he could very well be on his way out of town. I think if you play your cards right, looking on paper, especially with the big three of this team, you could say that they could win a title, but we haven't seen that in action yet. And part of that is an adjustment period to having Luka on your team. I think, especially making a trade midseason, you're going to be better off seeing the full product this year if everything stays in line. But if LeBron, this might be his final year, and if he really wants to win, he might not have that same patience. He might want to leave. And so it's not unfeasible that he could leave Los Angeles. And that just sounds so crazy to say. But this offseason just got a lot more interesting.